Welcome everyone to the very first episode of JCD Takes On. I am your host, John JCD Dinaselli, and I am coming to you as part of Kicking a Classic with JCD. Before we get started, I want to shout out some great shows, some great guys that do a lot of amazing work. First off, I want to shout out to Russell Rant and my buddy Graham Miranda from Bleacher Report. Great show, great kid, does an awesome job, awesome interviews, great insight. The next show I want to shout out is, of course, the Offended podcast with Todd Rick, Jim Stout, and I guess Katie Farrell, or whatever. Amazing as always, everything from pop culture stuff to wrestling. Just Todd, Jim, and I guess Katie are great people. Wrestle Realm with the awesome Brian Waters and Dwayne Allen. They do a phenomenal job. Their production is off the charts. Just awesome. And of course, James and We Are Pro Wrestling, a good historic look at events, characters, stories, just like Kicking a Classic with JCD is, but much more successful than Kicking a Classic is. James is a great guy. So yeah, check them all out by all means. So I was going to launch this show a little later on, but with a totally different topic, to be honest with you. And I was going to touch on like IWC influencers and people who think their opinions matter and experts and messiahs, all that crap. What I'm going to do is, I'm still going to touch on that, but for starters, I'm going to touch on the Kenny Omega incident from the weekend. Because as a wrestling fan and a father, I have quite a few different views on it, and I want to address them. And I thought that would be a good hot button topic to do for a debut episode. So, for starters, for those who don't know, Kenny tweeted about the main event for Battle of the Belts involving Britt Baker and Rio, and all he did was say it was a great match, great effort by both. Put the match over, put the talents over, no problem. Anybody with half a clue knows the history with Kenny and Rio. Kenny started training Rio very young, I believe 8 years old. They even worked a match together at 9. And that's not crazy. That's not abnormal. I mean, think about it. You have these moms that have these pageant kids that start at like 2 years old. These soccer kids, baseball kids, tennis kids that, fresh out of birth, basically, are being thrown into, training for these things. So why should wrestling be different? Why shouldn't Rio's family feel like, okay, well, if this is the road we want to go down, let's get one of the best to do it in Kenny and have her train? Who cares? It's not a big deal. Apparently what happened was some people accused Kenny of being a predator, of grooming Rio, and that's just wrong. That's bullshit. Okay, they dragged Kenny for his relationship with Marty Scurll back in the day. Marty's a whole other different issue that we would probably need 2 hours to really go over and debate. When you look at the actual black and white facts of the Marty situation, it basically becomes a legal rule versus morality, but it's morality over here versus what's legal somewhere else. He also got dragged for taking a picture with that, I think it was Chance something, that promoter guy who was found out to definitely be a predator and all that stuff. You can't drag Kenny for that. Kenny has every right to defend himself. Where Kenny loses me is, a gentleman replied to a picture of Kenny with Rio saying, "This is weird." And listen, there are people that can think training a kid at any early age for anything is weird. It doesn't necessarily mean anything else, although people want it to be that. It's not. He replied, "This is weird." Where Kenny loses me, and I guess this has to more do with the father in me, was Kenny's response to the guy was, he called him a pedophile, and basically said he abducted his daughter because the guy's holding his daughter in his Twitter profile picture. that's a fucking shitty take. That really is. I mean, there have been some shitty takes on Twitter by different personalities, especially in that promotion, which we could probably do a whole episode on the rise and fall of AEW on Twitter. But it was a real shitty take. It was a terrible thing for Kenny to do. And then Kenny's doubling down on it, telling the guy he's going to go to jail and all that stuff. And it was just bad. And it was really shitty. And it really takes away from, like, I look at Kenny totally differently now. Like, if that's your response to somebody saying something is weird, then fuck you. I mean, but then again, it goes to the mentality of a lot of people in that company. Oh, if you can't kiss our ass and suck our dick, then don't say anything at all. Isn't that right, Phil? You know, so fuck Kenny Omega for that. Whatever. You know, then he spiraled. I mean, I don't know if Kenny drinks, but this just seems like a round of drunk tweets. Cornette and this guy, and, you know, it was just a weird day for Kenny, and nothing's going to happen to it. My other issue with it is, to be honest with you, this is what Tony Khan's issue should be, but it won't. You're an executive vice president of a company. Whatever that means, whatever value that does or doesn't have, you need to carry yourself in a professional manner. And if that's how you handle somebody saying a picture of you and an 8-year-old is weird, you shouldn't have social media, especially in that position. Maybe that's something, you know, Kenny needs to deal with. I don't know what his insecurities, if he's got any insecurities. I'm sure there'll be a mental health claim at some point because, you know, that's the end thing to do. But Kenny needs to learn how to have a thicker skin, especially in that position. And Tony should address it. He won't, though, because Tony's got no balls. But, you know, whatever. That was Kenny's weekend, and it went completely off the chains. And of course, Twitter had to get ridiculous about it. Oh, we need to send love to Kenny. Oh, leave Kenny alone. No, fuck you. Kenny was a fucking asshole. Okay? You know, get out of your mom's basement, meet a girl and have some kids, and you'll see the shittiness in what Kenny said. You know, that's really it. I'm going to do these from time to time. This one's going to be about 8 minutes. They're going to be short. They're going to be long. Kicking It Classic is going to pick up probably in the next couple of days. So, and you can follow Kicking It Classic on Twitter at KITCWJCD. You can follow Kicking It Classic on Facebook at facebook.com/kickingitclassic with JCD. And you can follow me on Twitter at JDSI121976. So, for Kicking It Classic with JCD, I'm your host, John JCD Dinicelli. I will see you guys soon, and thanks for checking it out.